How can you be genuinely successful and happy until you truly know who you really are? In this video, I'm going to help you discover what makes you unique and how you can use this as an unfair advantage in life to achieve all of the dreams and goals that you have. So what do I really mean by learning and understanding who you are? I want you to think about the job that you're in right now. Are you really happy? Do you feel that you're somebody that is exactly where they should be at this exact time? You may have heard of this condition called imposter syndrome. This is a very common trait that many individuals have when they feel that they're in a job or they're doing something that they're not worthy of or that they're not meant to actually be doing in the first place. Do you feel like you're thriving in what you're doing today? Do you truly feel that you have your identity completely understood with all the things that you're doing in your day-to-day life, whether at home with family and friends or whether in the workplace with the individuals that you are with every day? You see, the issue with what I call imposter syndrome is that you're never actually going to be the true version of yourself. You'll never come across fully naturally. And ultimately, you can act like this chameleon creature for some time, but eventually you will get found out. Now, what you've got to understand is that all humans are born with DNA, and that DNA does not change. And with that DNA comes our natural personalities, our natural tendencies, and also our natural preferences. Now, it's fair to say, and very true, that our surroundings can impact this. Now, this is what we call nurture over nature. However, ultimately, there is still a component of every human being in the world which doesn't change. And this is something you've got to truly learn and understand about yourself, because this links to the types of culture and environments where you work and where you put yourself within. And by understanding and, more importantly, matching these to be a successful combination will no doubt allow you to unlock the most value in your life and in the workplace, but also allow you to be the best and most happiest and most genuine version of yourself. Now, how does it feel when you know who you are? You won't feel nervous. Everything will feel natural. Everything will flow for you. You know, all of this pre-anticipation and anxiety you have around things or situations tend to go out the window because you're in your element. You're in a situation where you know that you are comfortable and that you should be there and it feels like home. It's just the same as when you come home from work or you're out and you're in busy environments or you've been exploring new cities. You know, you come home and there's this, creature comfort of home. You instantly feel more relaxed. You feel like you are at one. You feel like you can be completely yourself. And that is why we have these homes and why we love being at home, because it ultimately is our safe place. Now, what I need you to think about is, how do I turn this idea of my safe place and this comfort when I'm in the workplace or in my career? Now, this all starts with the type of culture of the business that you're working within, but it also is around the personality of the people that you work with. Now, there are lots of different industries and sectors and geographies and, fair to say, countries that will probably bring a very different feeling or, engagement type when you're talking about your day-to-day work patterns and how you actually show up and communicate with each other. But having said that, there are parts of these businesses that don't change, and that's where you've got to understand what makes you tick and what makes you unique, and how you can actually add the most value but also be happy and truly engage with what you're doing when you're there. So once you know who you are, and the way to do this is really think about, what sort of personalities do I like to be around? What emotions do I like to feel? What do I like to see visually in my work environment? Who do I feel like I'm most comfortable with when I'm around them? It's around colours, it's ambience, it's environment, it's atmosphere, it's tones, it's volume levels, it's all of these things. This is what I mean by look inside. What makes you feel good? Are you an individual that likes to be in very busy, hectic, alive places, vibrant, lots of energy everywhere all the time? Or do you prefer being a little bit more introverted? Do you like it when nobody's always watching you and you have this autonomy, but you're able to actually put your mind to the task at hand without people watching over your shoulder? Now, these are all character traits that you really need to understand about yourself. And when you get that right and have comfort in what that part of you is, magic things can happen because you are able then to put yourselves in a situation where you're in your natural state and you're in your element and ultimately genuinely real. How fantastic would that feel? Imagine being somewhere and there is not one part of you that feels like you're an imposter here. And every action or reaction or words or communication or types of language or body language you're using is the real you. If you're somebody that can actually, in their day-to-day, where they spend most of their time, which is generally where we work, are actually able to be nearly yourself, then ultimately you're going to be a very happy person. So how do you turn this newfound knowledge of who you are into this unfair advantage? Well, it's quite simple really, because you know that any company or any culture or any type of environment of working is going to have different requirements to be successful. So it doesn't have to just be the sector or type of job you do, it's around how you work. You know, are you better knowing that you've got a paycheck coming each month? Are you somebody that needs that consistency and that sort of shield and that bubble around you to know that life will be okay as long as you turn up for work and perform fairly well? Or do you believe that you will only truly be happy if you're able to go out alone as a true entrepreneur and actually pave your own way, create your own destiny, and do things, you know, let's say a little bit more outside the box, and when everyone's going left, you decide to turn right? You know, this is another decision that you have to make, and by making that decision around the environment and type of ownership and the structure of business you're in, that's the first big step to understanding how to use that as an advantage. Now, I'm not saying people that work in corporate can't become entrepreneurs and that entrepreneurs can't go back to corporate, but ultimately you will know and probably feel that you're destined to be in one of these different spaces. And by understanding and having that honest conversation with yourself will really help you be successful, because you're in a position and putting yourself in an environment where you're probably meant to be. And the most important thing to understand here is, whilst I said earlier, and it is true, that your DNA doesn't change, this nurture versus nature thing is powerful. So there are certainly different parts of you that will adapt, and you know, your chemical balances, the way you act, the way your body interprets things, does get differed by things like lifestyle, diet, exercise, but also age. So what you have to do as well is, as you're getting older and as you're progressing through life, you have to create this habit of being able to constantly review, analyze, and debrief what is going on year by year. And this isn't something you have to do every day or even every month. But personally, I do it every sort of 6 months and just check myself and say, has these last 6 months been as engaging and as rewarding as the 6 months before that? Is the type of work I'm doing, is what's, you know, challenging me still what it needs to be to make me feel happy? And if the answer is no, then I don't necessarily make huge changes and do something completely new, but I at least I'm aware of this and I acknowledge it. And I use this newfound analysis and these new feelings to perhaps make some small changes into what I'm doing. It may be something as subtle as, I once challenged myself by doing work in a new country or new market, just to give me some fresh perspective or broaden my horizons. It may also be that, you know, the work I'm doing, I feel like I'm not that challenged because I'm doing very similar things with very similar clients and the method I'm using is not too different. Having that analysis, that debrief, and that review on a regular basis probably sets you up for a more consistent way of living and actually making sure that you're optimizing day by day when you're in your life and the workplace. Now, the best part of all of this is that once you're comfortable with this practice of reviewing, analyzing, and debriefing, and really having this awareness of who you are, it gives you more confidence to actually go and take risks. It allows you to do this because you know when you take these risks or you do something different that you've got a tried and tested model now of understanding how you analyze what you're doing, and you're not just trying something over and over without actually analyzing or understanding what it is or how it feels or what the results are. One thing I would say is that you shouldn't ever in life not take risks, because you do only get one life and life is for living. You know, my grandfather, which my first business was actually named after, it was called Walter James. The reason I decided to name my first business after him is because he said to me one day when he was about a year before he died, he said, James, life is full of stories. Make sure your story has a lot of chapters. Now this really resonates with me because we are writers. We are able to create our own story. You know, no one's writing your next chapter for you. You're writing that story and that chapter for yourself. Now, don't get me wrong, you may want to get not a ghostwriter, but somebody to influence you or help you on that journey of what that story looks like. But you can make this story however you want it to look like, and you can go in any direction you want. Now, while this is really critical information to understand who you are, this won't be that effective until you also understand whether you would be better working in big corporate or as an entrepreneur.